I knew something was off the second Mia sat down across from me at the dinner table. She was dressed too carefully, hair curled, lips painted a shade of red she only wore when she wanted something. It was a look I used to find irresistible. Tonight, it made my skin crawl before she even opened her mouth. She barely touched her wine. Her fingers circled the rim of the glass instead, and her eyes couldn't settle on mine for more than a few seconds. The steak I grilled sat untouched on her plate. The smell of rosemary and butter filled the silence between us, making the whole evening feel like some beautifully choreographed performance. And I was the idiot in the front row who didn't know the plot. Then she said it. I think we should try an open marriage. The words hit me like a fist, slow and muffled, like they traveled through water. I blinked at her. The scraping of her fork against the plate was suddenly deafening. Excuse me, I asked, though I'd heard her loud and clear. Mia crossed her legs, tugging her dress down over her thigh, and for a moment I remembered how much I loved that body, how much I'd once memorized every inch of it like sacred scripture. But that memory couldn't touch the cold bloom spreading through my chest now. I've been thinking about it for a while, she said, trying to sound casual. A lot of couples do it. It's healthy. Honest, even. Honest. I laughed once, hard and humorless. You dropped this on me over dinner, and you call it honest? Mia looked wounded, but only for a second. She recovered quickly, her voice lowering, seductive and dangerous like it always got when she was trying to soften a blow. I need more, Liam. I don't want to feel trapped. You and we've become so predictable. You know what I'm going to say before I say it. You know how I like my coffee, how I sleep, how I fake orgasms. That last line sliced deeper than I thought words ever could. I sat back, stunned, heart hammering. You fake them? She didn't answer. She just looked at me with a strange kind of pity, like I was a loyal dog who just couldn't understand why he wasn't enough anymore. You're bored? I asked slowly. With me? It's not about you, she said. It's about me. A phrase as old as every affair in the history of marriage. I stared at her, trying to hold myself together, even as everything inside me cracked like plaster under pressure. I'd worked so hard for this life. Built it with my hands and my time and my love. I'd turned down better job offers to stay close to her career. I'd said no to trips, to hobbies, to friends, because I believed in us. And now, suddenly, I was just in the way of her excitement. Who is he? I asked, my voice tighter than I expected. You already have someone in mind, don't you? She looked away, then back, and in that pause, in that half second of silence, I knew. I didn't plan it, she said quietly. Jesus. So I'm the last one to know, I muttered, pushing back from the table. The legs scraped across the hardwood like a scream. You've already started. Her silence was confirmation. Her eyes glistened, not with regret, but something else, defiance, maybe, or shame she didn't want to admit. How long? I asked. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That's all it took to unravel 15 years of marriage. 3 weeks of new attention, new touches, and maybe new sex that felt exciting simply because it wasn't with me. I hated how my brain immediately imagined it. Her head tilted back, mouth open for someone else's name. Her hips arching, skin slick, skin I used to worship with my lips and hands. Did she let him do things she told me she didn't like? Did he touch her in ways she told me not to bother with because she was too tired or not in the mood? My chest tightened. I was drowning in 1,000 unanswered questions, each one whispering, "You weren't enough." He's not the point, Liam, she said. This is about what I need. What you need. I snapped. And what about what I need, Mia? Did that even cross your mind? I thought you'd understand. No, Mia, I said, my voice lowering to something more dangerous than a shout. You thought I'd roll over. Like always. Smile, nod, pretend I'm okay while you go off and fuck someone else and come home to my arms. She flinched. Good. I grabbed my jacket from the hook near the door, my heart thudding in my ears. Where are you going? She asked. I paused. I don't know. Away. Somewhere I can remember who the hell I was before I became just another man in the way of your fun. I didn't slam the door. I closed it quietly behind me, walked down the steps with numb hands, and slid into the driver's seat. The silence of the car felt too much like my life. Engine off, windows up, just me and a whole lot of nothing. I sat there for a long time, and then I turned the key, pulled out into the street, and drove. I didn't remember turning onto the highway. I just suddenly was there, headlights stretching through the darkness, the road unspooling in front of me like some endless strip I couldn't escape. The world outside the windshield was blur and shadow. My hands were tight on the wheel, fingertips white. Every mile marker passed like a heartbeat. I should have pulled over. I knew that. But stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant sinking into the moment where Mia looked me in the eye and calmly told me she wanted excitement, as if I'd been nothing more than a comfortable piece of furniture. I kept replaying her voice. I don't want to feel trapped. Had I trapped her? Had our life become too small, too predictable? Or was that just the excuse she needed to justify the fact she was already opening her legs for someone else? The idea made my stomach twist. Wind buffeted the side of the car. The night swallowed everything except the thin corridor of light in front of me. I drove past a gas station without even registering the need to stop. My only destination was away from the kitchen table where she sat with perfect posture and perfect lipstick. Away from that cold, steady tone. Away from the humiliation. I felt it for the first time then. Humiliation. The word slid into me like a blade. I hadn't just been betrayed. I'd been pitted. And somehow that was worse. I thought about the man, whoever he was. The way Mia had paused when I asked if she had someone in mind. The tiny shake of her head. The half-second of silence. That silence told me everything. She already had someone. She already had excitement. She already had sex she didn't need to fake. And I was the last to know. The highway curved through open fields. A long line of red taillights stretched ahead of me, blurring into a smear of color through my damp eyes. I didn't even realize I'd been crying until a tear reached my jaw and chilled in the air from the vent. Pathetic, I thought. Pathetic and predictable. I'd always been the dependable one. The safe choice. A man who made dinner on Fridays and kissed his wife on the neck when she brushed her teeth. A man who stayed. Who showed up. Who tried. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe she didn't want safe. The irony was almost funny. I had been so careful with her heart, and she had been reckless with mine. Hours passed without me noticing. The road hummed under the tires, a soft vibration that echoed in my bones. Somewhere along the way, the world blurred into silver streaks. Then the rain began. It came out of nowhere, sharp, sudden. Fat drops splattered across the windshield. Wipers rasped and squealed, unable to keep up. Visibility collapsed into a smear of water and reflection. Headlights from oncoming cars refracted through the rain, turning into long white spears. Red taillights became bleeding rubies. The road itself was a glossy ribbon, slick and uncertain. I slowed, but not enough. My mind wasn't in the car anymore. It was back at the table, back in the kitchen, back in the moment she said she didn't want to feel trapped. I could still hear the click of her wine glass against the table. I could smell her perfume. I could see her lips forming the words that broke us. The wipers thumped, steady and rhythmic. My breathing wasn't. A thought crept into my head, unwelcome and poisonous. Maybe it's my fault. I gripped the wheel harder. The words echoed. Maybe I'd made her feel boxed in. Maybe I'd stopped being enough. Maybe I'd become invisible. I pictured the two of them, the mystery man and my wife, bodies pressed close, sweat on skin, laughter muffled by pillows. I imagined her gasping, arching, whispering his name. Heat flushed my chest. Anger. Hurt. An ache so sharp it felt like physical pain. I didn't deserve this. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I had failed somewhere, somehow. The rain became heavier. Sheets of water poured over the car, drowning the world outside in distortion. It was like driving through tears. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, but more tears came, hot and relentless. I whispered to nobody, I did everything for you. The highway narrowed, or maybe that was just how it felt. The road was slick, mirrors blurred, lights smeared into neon trails. My head throbbed. My heart was a fist pounding inside my ribs. I couldn't see clearly. Headlights cut through the rain from the opposite lane. They flared too bright, too sudden, like someone had aimed a spotlight into my face. My vision smeared. The car drifted. I corrected too late. The tires skidded. The world tilted. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. And then, impact. A violent jolt. Everything went white. Sound came back in pieces. Sirens first, sharp, pulsing, too close. Then voices, frantic and overlapping, words I couldn't grab onto. I tried to move, but nothing responded the way it should. My body felt like it wasn't mine anymore, just heavy limbs and static. Bright white lights slid past above me. A ceiling I didn't recognize. Faces leaning over me, blurry and outlined in halos of fluorescent glare. Stay with us, sir. Stay awake. I tried. I really did. My eyelids fought against me, like they were weighed down with sand. I tasted metal in my mouth. Blood? Or maybe just fear. There was pressure on my chest, hands, something pushing, voices saying numbers, codes, things that belonged to other people's emergencies, not mine. Then I heard it. A woman's voice. Calm, warm, close, breathe. You're safe now. It sliced through the chaos, clean and steady. I clung to it like a lifeline. My vision steadied enough to focus on her face. She had brown eyes, not the cold, distant gray of an operating room, but something softer. Human. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun, a few strands escaping and brushing her cheek. There was a faint sheen of sweat on her forehead. She'd been working. She was real. She saw me looking and nodded. You're in the emergency room. You were in a car accident. You're going to be okay. My throat was tight. I wanted to speak, to say something coherent, but the words tangled. Emiya, I croaked. Her eyebrows pinched, concern deepening. Is that your wife? I nodded once. She hesitated. We'll contact her. A flash of pain hit me, not from the crash. Something older. Rawer. I shook my head. No, don't. She didn't ask why. She didn't press. She just squeezed my shoulder gently, like she understood something without needing the explanation. Okay, she said. Then just focus on breathing. The room moved around me like a storm. Machines beeped. Wheels squeaked. Hands lifted, checked, wrapped. My ribs ached. My bones hummed. But all I really saw was her face rising and falling into view when I drifted. Later, it was quieter. The ceiling was still white, but the chaos had retreated behind double doors. I lay on a bed with rails, a blanket up to my waist. My clothes were gone, replaced by thin hospital fabric. My left wrist throbbed wherein 4 needles sat, taped to my skin. Footsteps approached. The same woman appeared at the side of my bed. I'm Hannah, she said. I'm one of the nurses on tonight. Her voice had that same steady warmth. I looked at her properly now. She wasn't classically beautiful. She didn't have Mia's polished glow, the sharp lines, the perfect angles, but she had something else. A kind of grounded softness. Eyes that actually looked at people, not through them. How do you feel? She asked. I swallowed. Like I got hit by a truck. She smiled a little. Close. You hydroplaned into a guardrail. Seatbelt saved your life. I tried to remember it. The rain. The lights. The spinning. My chest tightened just thinking about it. Anyone I hurt? I asked, voice tight. No, she said. You were alone. Lucky. Lucky. The word made something bitter rise in my throat. I wasn't lucky. I'd been driving half-blind into the storm because my wife had just told me she wanted to sleep with other men. If anything, it was a miracle I hadn't wrapped myself around a tree. Hannah's eyes softened further. She wasn't just looking at my injuries. She was seeing me. Accidents like this, she said gently. They usually have a story behind them. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't fall asleep, I said. I didn't say you did. Silence stretched between us. Not awkward, just heavy. Real. Then she stepped closer, lowering her voice. You look like a man who's been holding something in for a long time. The truth of it hit me so hard I wanted to cry. My chest ached, not from seatbelt bruising, but from something that had been building for years. A pressure of unsaid things. Unfelt things. All the times I'd swallowed disappointment, smoothed over arguments, let Mia have her way because peace was easier than conflict. And she had sat across from me tonight and told me I wasn't enough. I turned my head away, jaw tight. It's nothing, I muttered. Hannah didn't buy it. She pulled a stool over, sat down beside me, elbows on her knees, hands clasped loosely. You don't have to explain, she said. Just breathe. You're safe here. Safe. I hadn't felt safe in a long time. A tear slid down the side of my face before I could stop it. I wasn't crying because of the crash. Not because of pain, but because someone, a stranger, had spoken to me like I mattered. Hannah reached up and brushed the tear away with her thumb. Not in a romantic way. Not in a pitying way. Just human. Accidents don't scare me, she said softly. Bottled feelings do. I closed my eyes. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I let myself fall apart a little. The hospital room had that artificial stillness only found at 2 a.m. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, softened by a dimmer switch someone thoughtful had turned low. Machines hummed quietly beside me. Heartbeat monitor, for drip, occasional pneumatic hiss from the blood pressure cuff. All of it familiar in the background. But what kept me tethered to the moment was Hannah. She sat in the corner, not as a nurse now, but something else. Her break had started 30 minutes ago. She could have gone to the staff lounge, grabbed a snack, checked her phone. But she pulled up a chair and stayed. Legs crossed, hair tied up, but unraveling with time. There was no makeup on her face, none that I could tell, but her presence held a quiet kind of magnetism. It wasn't in her body or face. It was in her attention, like she was here and nowhere else. "You're not sleeping," she said softly, looking at me from across the bed. "No," I replied, voice raspier than I expected. "Didn't really think I would. You should try. The body needs it to heal." "It's not the body that's the problem." She didn't smile. Didn't offer the fake comfort people give when they don't want to hear more. She just sat with me in the silence. Finally, I turned my head toward her. "You ever look at your life and wonder when exactly it stopped feeling like yours?" Her eyes met mine. "Yes. Like, you trace it back, day by day, trying to figure out the exact moment it shifted. Like one of those slow leaks you don't notice until the tire's flat." She nodded once. Most people don't realize it until they're already on the side of the road. I let out a dry breath. "Yeah, that sounds about right." She stood, walked over to the side of the bed, and leaned slightly against the railing. Close, but not too close. I could smell the faint scent of her skin, clean, warm, maybe lavender. Her presence was calm, almost grounding. "Your injuries," she said, "are mostly superficial. No broken bones. A concussion, bruised ribs, and a hell of a scare. But I saw something else tonight when they brought you in." I looked up at her, confused. She gestured, gentle but firm. "The bruises that don't show up on CT scans. The kind you carry in your eyes. The kind that come from years of being unheard." My throat tightened. I looked away. "You're good at hiding it," she added, softer. "Most men are." Something about the way she said that made my defenses crack. I'd spent so long holding everything in. At home, with Mia, I'd become the mirror she wanted to see herself in, steady, supportive, available. Never needy. Never raw. Never real. I didn't think she'd be the one to. I trailed off, unable to say it. "You don't have to finish that," she said. I thought love meant staying. Showing up. Providing. Not needing to be the most exciting person in the room. Hannah's voice was quiet. "It does. But some people need chaos more than they need love. That's not your fault." My eyes burned. Not from the crash. From her words. She reached forward and gently adjusted the blanket over my stomach, a nurse's gesture, but there was tenderness in it. Her fingers brushed mine by accident, or maybe not, and the contact sent a quiet shiver up my arm. It wasn't sexual. It was human. Warmth I hadn't felt in so long it felt foreign. "You seem like someone who's used to being needed," she said, still looking down at the blanket. "But when was the last time you were wanted?" The question hit hard. I didn't answer because I couldn't. Because I didn't know. Mia needed me. For a long time, she did. For support, stability, partnership. But want? Desire? That thing that lives behind the eyes. The spark when fingers graze skin and breath catches. That had been gone for years. The last time she touched me with intent, I think Obama was still in office. And now someone else got that version of her. The one who smiled like she had secrets. Who bit her lip when someone touched her thigh under the table. That version, once mine, now belonged to a stranger. The weight in my chest grew heavier. Hannah must have sensed it. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She just reached into her scrub pocket and handed me a tissue. I took it without speaking. Our fingers brushed again, this time slower, longer. "You're not alone in this," she said. I looked up. "Feels like it. Pain always feels like solitude," she said. "But it's not. I see you. Not as a patient. As a man who's hurting. And I think you've been hurting a lot longer than just tonight." I clenched the tissue in my fist. She stepped back, maybe sensing it was too much. "I'm on until 6. If you need anything, water, food, a reason to keep from going back to whatever broke you, just press the call button." "Would you actually come?" She smiled for the first time. Not polite, not professional, just real. "I already did, didn't I?" Then she turned and walked toward the door. But just before leaving, she looked back over her shoulder. "You look like a man who deserves to be chosen," she said. even if you forgot how that feels. And then she was gone, leaving me in the quiet hum of machines, surrounded by bruises that didn't need casts or splints, but healing all the same. Morning arrived in pale fragments of light through a narrow hospital window. I didn't remember falling asleep, but I woke with a strange feeling of weight and lightness at the same time, like my body had been dropped and then caught just before breaking. I heard soft footsteps outside my room, and for a brief second, I wondered if Mia had come. The thought made something tight coil in my stomach. Not hope, something darker. Habit, maybe. Expectation. But when the door opened, it wasn't her. It was Hannah. A faint smile curved her lips, the kind that wasn't forced, just quietly present. "Morning," she said. "You made it through the night without any alarms. That's usually a good sign." I cleared my throat. "I feel like I got hit by a guardrail." "You did," she reminded me, amused. "Multiple times." She checked the monitors, the four, gently lifted the corner of the blanket to look at the bruising on my ribs. Her fingertips were careful, but even that soft contact made me wince. "Those will heal," she murmured. "Bruises always look worse before they get better." She meant my ribs, but I heard something else in the words. For a moment, we just existed in the same quiet space, machines humming, sunlight stretching across the sterile floor. It was absurd, but I liked having her there. Her presence made the room feel less like a place you ended up because something went wrong, and more like a pause in a long, chaotic story. Near noon, a doctor came in with discharge papers. He went through instructions, prescriptions, warning signs. I nodded at all the right times, but I didn't absorb much. My mind drifted. When he asked who was picking me up, I hesitated. "My wife," I said, then added, "might be busy." He didn't press. Doctors see all kinds of truths without needing explanations. An hour later, my bag was packed. Someone had found my phone in the wreckage and placed it in a plastic tray. It was cracked but functional, like me. Hannah appeared again, leaning against the doorframe. "You're free to go," she said. "How do you feel about that?" "Not sure," I admitted. Going home feels like stepping back into something that already let me drown. She held my gaze for a moment. "Not all homes are safe," she said softly. Her words hit harder than I expected. When I walked out to the lobby, it was raining again. Not the violent storm from last night, just a steady drizzle that blurred the world into gray edges. I paused by the automatic doors, expecting, I don't know, guilt, relief, something from Mia. But she wasn't there. She hadn't texted. She hadn't called. She hadn't even acknowledged the crash. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe the hospital never reached her. Maybe she was too busy living her new exciting life, the one where she didn't feel trapped. But as I stood there, staring at the wet pavement, Hannah came up beside me. "You're alone," she said, not as a question. I nodded. She hesitated, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. Handwritten numbers in neat loops. "This isn't professional of me," she said, voice low. "But sometimes emergencies aren't physical, or they don't happen in hospitals. If you need help, someone to talk to, call." I stared at the number. "Are you sure?" I asked. She smiled with a softness that made something in me swell and ache at the same time. "I don't give my number to patients," she said. "Just to people who look like they've been carrying pain alone for too long." I swallowed, throat thick. Then she stepped back, giving me space. "I hope you heal," she said. I pushed open the glass doors and stepped into the rain. The cold hit instantly, running down my neck, soaking into the thin clothes they'd given me. I didn't rush. I didn't cover my head. The rain felt like it matched something inside me. At the edge of the parking lot, I stopped and turned. Hannah was still there, just inside the lobby, hands tucked into her scrubs, watching me through the glass. Not in a needy way, not in a rescue me way, just present. For a second, I didn't feel invisible. Then the doors slid shut between us. I walked to the curb, the damp air clinging to me. No car, no wife, no familiar voice calling my name. Only a taxi idling under the overhang, driver waiting. I opened the door and got in. The seat felt strangely cold. "Where to?" the driver asked. I hesitated. I didn't want to say it. Didn't want to go back to that house, that kitchen, that table where everything fell apart. But I said it anyway. "Home." The word tasted wrong. As the taxi pulled away, I slipped a hand into my pocket and felt the folded paper. Hannah's number, warm against my fingers. I didn't know what I would do with it. I only knew this. When the rain struck the windows and the city blurred, it wasn't the crash that hurt. It was knowing I was walking back into a life that had already left me. The taxi dropped me off in front of my house just after noon. The rain had dwindled to a cold mist, the kind that clings to your clothes and skin, leaving everything damp. When I stepped out, I stood on the curb a moment, staring at the front door. I didn't want to go inside. I didn't want to see Mia. But the ridiculous part was that I also needed to. Some twisted sense of loyalty, of responsibility. Even broken, I still walked back to the place where pain waited. When I pushed open the door, the house was alive with noise. Music from somewhere upstairs. Pop, upbeat, careless. The kind of thing people listen to when they're getting ready for a night they're excited about. I set my hospital bag down. Mia was standing in the hallway mirror when I found her. Hair curled, body angled just right to admire her own reflection. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, black, tight, hugging her hips. She looked incredible, objectively, like someone who wanted to be shown off. She turned when she saw me. "Oh," she said, almost startled. "You're home." The words were so absurd they made me laugh. "Yeah, car accident. Hospital. Remember?" Her eyebrows lifted. "Right. Are you okay?" She didn't move toward me, didn't touch me, didn't check for bruises or blood or any sign of a husband who crashed his car last night. "I'm fine," I said, even though I wasn't. "Good," she replied. "I have plans tonight, so I can't stay long. I just need to finish getting ready." She stepped past me, smelling like perfume and possibility. I stood there, speechless. "Can I ask?" I said carefully. "Are your plans with him?" She paused at the base of the stairs and looked back over her shoulder. "I told you, I'm not hiding anything anymore. Yes, I'm meeting him." Her tone was flat, practical, like she was telling me she had a dentist appointment. The emptiness inside me deepened. She didn't ask where the accident happened, or how scared I was, or if I needed anything. I was a piece of furniture in my own house. She went upstairs, humming. I stared at the bottom step, my hand resting on the banister. I had never felt more invisible. Eventually, I made it to the living room and lowered myself into a chair. My ribs protested. My head pulsed. The room felt colder than I remembered. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a moment, I thought it might be Mia. It wasn't. "Hannah." A simple message. "Just checking. How are you feeling?" I stared at it. Nobody had asked me that today. I typed slowly. "Alive. Barely. Thank you. For everything." The 3 dots appeared almost instantly. "You don't have to thank me. I'm glad you're okay." Another pause. Then, "You deserve someone who stays." I didn't know how to respond to that. The words hit somewhere deep, somewhere tender. From upstairs, I heard Mia laughing. Not with me. Never with me anymore. With someone she couldn't wait to see. The ache in my chest spread. I sank back into the chair, phone in hand, staring at the message. For a moment, I almost deleted it. Almost convinced myself that reaching out to Hannah was wrong. That I was still married. That I should stay loyal even if loyalty had become a one-way street. But then I thought about the rain, the crash, the empty driveway, the empty hallway, and the fact that my wife didn't notice the bandage on my wrist. I typed, "I don't know why I'm telling you this." But she didn't even ask how the accident happened. A minute passed. Maybe 2. Then, some people only see what they want. Pain makes them blind. I let out a long breath I didn't know I was holding. I keep thinking maybe this is my fault. Her reply came quickly. That's the first lie people tell themselves when they're hurt. I closed my eyes. Upstairs, the bedroom door opened. Footsteps, heels on wood. Mia descended like she was stepping onto a stage. She looked stunning, devastating, like someone who had already moved to a different life. "Don't wait up," she said. I didn't answer. She left. Door closed. Silence. And then my phone lit up again. "You're not alone." I stared at those words, sitting in the middle of my empty, quiet house. I wanted to reply something simple. "Thank you." Or "You have no idea." Or "Please don't stop texting me." Instead, I wrote, "I don't know what comes next." Her answer, "One step at a time." But stop walking towards someone who has already walked away. I sat there for a long time, phone warm in my hand, ribs aching, heart heavier than both. Outside, the rain started again. Inside, something new began, small, quiet, undeniably real. I didn't know what to call it yet, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was drowning alone. It wasn't the rain this time. It wasn't headlights or speed or black ice. It wasn't metal or glass or physics failing to save me. No, this crash came while I was sitting completely still. At home, on the couch, wrapped in a blanket I hadn't moved since this morning. It was a Thursday. She had been gone 3 hours. And I should have known better than to check her phone. But I did. Mia had left her iPad on the kitchen counter, screen still lit with an open message thread. I wasn't snooping, not intentionally, but something about the way it was left there, open, unlocked, glowing like a secret begging to be known. It pulled me in. I told myself I just wanted to see how far things had gone. But nothing could have prepared me. There were photos. Of him. Of her. Of them. Together. Half-dressed. Smiling. The kind of candid joy she hadn't given me in years. In one, he had his arm around her waist, his fingers slipping below the waistband of her jeans. She was laughing, her head on his shoulder. And there were messages, too. You bring out a side of me I forgot existed. I feel alive with you. This weekend is ours. No excuses. He doesn't suspect a thing. That last one cut like a blade across my chest. I dropped the iPad. My breath came in short, tight gasps. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even shocked. I was broken. Because the second crash wasn't about betrayal. It was about confirmation. That I had already lost her. That I'd been living in the ruins of something she stopped believing in long ago. And I had been trying to rebuild alone. I don't remember putting on shoes. I don't remember grabbing my keys. I just remember driving. Again. Only this time I wasn't running from the storm. I was running from the silence. Halfway to the ER, my chest tightened. Not the dull ache of sadness. A sharp, stabbing pain that made it hard to breathe. My hands trembled on the wheel. For a moment, I really thought I was dying. Heart attack. Panic. I pulled into the same emergency parking lot from nights ago. Left the car crooked in a space. Stumbled through the glass doors, sweat slicking my palms. A nurse saw me immediately. Then I heard her voice. Liam. I turned. Hannah. She was at the counter, clipboard in hand, but she dropped it the second she saw my face. In 2 strides she was beside me, hands on my shoulders. What's wrong? I don't know. I stammered. I thought I was okay, but my chest. She led me gently into a room. Sat me down. Her touch was firm but calming, like she knew I might shatter if she didn't hold me steady. Take a breath, she said, kneeling in front of me. Look at me. Not the clock. Not the floor. Me. I did. Her eyes were like anchors. It's not your heart, she said softly. You're having an emotional crash. Your body's just catching up to what your heart already knows. My throat tightened. It hurts. I know, she whispered. It's not supposed to be fair, but you're not going to die from this. Tears came, hot and fast. Not from physical pain, but from the kind of grief that comes when something dies while still pretending to live. She stayed with me, one hand on my chest, the other holding mine. No gloves, no clipboard, no walls. When I finally spoke, it came out broken. I saw pictures, texts. She's gone. Not just physically, gone. And she's happy about it. Hannah said nothing at first. Then, she didn't just leave. She replaced you. I flinched. People who need to feel powerful don't leave quietly, she added. They leave like it's a performance. And they make sure you know who they're clapping for. I laughed bitterly. Well, bravo. She reached up, thumb brushing a tear from my cheek. You're still here. That counts for something. The hospital faded. The noise, the beeping, the artificial light, it all blurred. Only she was clear. I didn't come here for you, I said, ashamed. I thought I was dying. I know, she replied. But I'm still glad you came. She helped me lie back. Sat beside the bed, her hand still in mine. Most people think the worst part of betrayal is the lie, she said. But it's not. What is it then? The replacement, she answered. The moment they show you they'd rather be somewhere else. That someone else gets the version of them you used to love. I closed my eyes. Silent tears traced down my temples, into my hairline. Hannah stayed. Didn't move. Didn't let go. You're not dying, she whispered, just before I drifted into the first real sleep I'd had in weeks. You're just waking up. The next morning, I didn't go home. I sat on a bench outside the ER, sipping cheap hospital coffee, the paper cup trembling slightly in my hand. It wasn't cold, but my body felt like it had gone through a war. Too many sleepless nights, too many blows to the chest that never bruised the skin but left me aching all the same. The air smelled like rain and antiseptic. I hadn't spoken much since last night, when Hannah stayed by my side, just holding my hand until I fell asleep. I didn't dream. Or maybe I did and I just forgot. All I remembered was her voice. You're not dying. You're just waking up. Footsteps approached. I didn't need to look up to know it was her. You came back? I said quietly. Shift change, Hannah replied, sitting beside me. Saw your name on the board again. I managed a tired smile. They should name a bed after me. You're not the first man to crash into a realization. That made me laugh, just barely. Then I looked at her. She wasn't wearing her scrubs yet. Just jeans and a dark jacket. Her hair pulled back in that effortless way that made her look like someone who never tried too hard and didn't need to. Did you sleep? I asked. She shrugged. A little. I wasn't the one heartbroken. My breath caught in my chest. I hadn't said the word out loud. Heartbroken. But she was right. I was. And saying it in my head, quietly, didn't make it any less real. We sat in silence for a moment before she spoke again. You ever wonder what would have happened if you didn't crash that night? Every day, would you have gone home? Pretended like everything was fine? I thought about that. Thought about how many nights I sat across from Mia, swallowing words just to keep the peace. How many touches I'd initiated only to be met with cool distance. How long I'd convinced myself it was just a phase. I think I would have kept trying, I admitted. Hannah nodded. That's what men like you do. Even when it kills them. I turned to her. And women like you. We set boundaries. That word, boundary. It hit differently. What kind of boundary? I asked, careful. She looked at me, eyes steady, grounded. The kind that says, if you're married, I don't cross lines. Even if the marriage is a graveyard. I nodded slowly. I respect that. But, she added, I also know emotional cheating is real. And what we've been doing, texting, talking, sitting together, it's not physical, but it's not neutral either. I felt the tension rise between us, not awkward tension, but the kind that exists between two people who've shared something intimate without crossing the obvious line. I never meant for it to become something inappropriate. I said, meaning every word. It's not, she said, but it's close. The air between us shifted. There was something in her eyes. Something soft, something restrained. Not lust, not fantasy, but want. Quiet and careful and grown. And I wanted it too. But not like this. I don't want to hurt you, I said, almost whispering. She nodded. Then don't lie to yourself. I looked down at my coffee cup, the liquid swirling. I don't know what I want. I think you do, she replied. You want someone who chooses you. Not because they're bored or scared or trapped, but because they see you. I swallowed hard. I do. She turned toward me. Then stopped choosing someone who doesn't. That line. It split something open. I had spent so long trying to prove myself worthy of love from someone who had already left the room. I had been faithful to a version of Mia that didn't exist anymore. Maybe hadn't existed in years. And now I was sitting next to a woman who asked for nothing and gave more than I'd felt in a long time. I'm not ready, I admitted. For anything new. I know, she said. That's why we're not doing anything new. We sat in silence again, and for once, it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like the beginning of something that didn't need to be named yet. So, she said after a long pause, here's the boundary. We don't sleep together. We don't kiss. We don't send late-night messages that pretend they're innocent when we both know they're not. We don't cheat. You get your divorce first. And if I never do? She shrugged. Then this stays exactly what it is. Two people who found comfort in the middle of their mess. I stared at her. I'm not going back to her, I said finally. Good, she said. But don't come to me just because you need somewhere to hide. My voice was quieter now. What if I just want somewhere to breathe? She looked at me for a long moment. Then breathe. But know this, there's no in between. Either you're healing, or you're just using someone to forget. I'm trying, I whispered. I know, she replied. That's why I'm still here. The line had been drawn, not as a rejection, but as respect. And somehow, that made it more intimate than anything else we could have done. She stood, brushed a hand through her hair, and smiled. I'll see you around, Liam. And with that, she walked into the hospital, leaving me outside in the morning light, cup in hand, heart cracked open, but finally facing the truth. I didn't want an affair. I wanted a choice. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to make one. It started with the ring. Or, more accurately, the lack of it. One morning, Mia came down the stairs wearing a soft gray top, tight jeans, no makeup. She looked casual, fresh. It was one of those outfits she wore when she wasn't trying, when she didn't need to, because she already had what she wanted. She moved through the kitchen like I wasn't there, reaching for coffee. I watched her fingers curl around the mug. They looked different somehow. Naked. No wedding ring. She noticed me staring. What? She asked. You're not wearing it. She followed my gaze to her hand. Oh, yeah. Just like that. Oh, yeah. No explanation. No apology. No acknowledgement that she'd just made a silent declaration that our marriage was little more than paperwork at this point. I didn't say anything. I couldn't, because saying something would have made it real. But that's the thing about silence. It makes space for louder betrayals. That weekend, she canceled dinner. Again, it was a small thing, just a takeout night I'd planned for Saturday, something I clung to like a ritual. But when I reminded her about it, she barely looked up from her phone. I'm going out, she said. We'll do it next week. Where? Out. With him. She sighed, like I was a dog barking at the door too long. Does it matter? I stared at her, heart pounding. You said we'd have boundaries. Her head snapped up. I said I would have boundaries. I didn't say I'd live like a nun while you figured your shit out. That was the moment. The moment the final bit of my restraint cracked. You're treating me like a placeholder, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Like I'm just some roommate who exists so you don't have to explain your rent to a stranger. She laughed. Laughed. Oh my God, Liam. You're being dramatic. Dramatic? I repeated, stunned. You told me you wanted an open marriage. Then started dating a guy behind my back before even mentioning it. Now you forget our anniversary, cancel dinner, and ditch your ring. And I'm the one being dramatic? She folded her arms. You're scared. I blinked. What? You're scared to lose me, she said, like it was some brilliant epiphany. And that was when it happened. I laughed. For the first time in months, I laughed. Not out of humor, but clarity. Like something finally clicked into place. I wasn't scared to lose her. I already had. You think I'm scared to lose you? I asked, eyes locked on hers. Mia, I already did. You just haven't packed your things yet. That wiped the smugness from her face. I've been dying by degrees in this house for years, I continued, voice calm now. Drowning in your indifference. You pulled away long before you asked for permission to do it openly. She stared at me, uncertain for the first time. I stepped closer, every word like a breath I'd been holding for too long. You made me believe I was safe. And then you took that safety and twisted it into boredom. You punished me for stability and called it honesty. Liam. No, I cut her off. You don't get to rewrite this. The silence that followed felt different than any before. Final. She looked at me like she was trying to summon the version of me who would fold. The one who would say, let's work on it. The one who'd ask, what did I do wrong? But that man had walked out the door the night of the crash. I'm done being an option, I said. She blinked, lips parting. You're filing for divorce? She asked, almost amused. Like it was a bluff. I met her gaze with a steadiness I hadn't felt in years. I already did. That landed. I saw it in her eyes. The surprise, the shift, the realization that this was real now. That I wasn't begging. That the choice she thought she controlled had just been taken out of her hands. You'll regret this, she whispered. No, I said. I regretted staying quiet. I regretted not walking away the first time you made me feel like a backup plan. She stared at me for a long second, then turned and walked away. Upstairs, door closing softly behind her. No yelling. No apologies. Just an ending. Later that day, I sat at the kitchen table alone. The house was too quiet. And for the first time in months, I wasn't trying to fill the silence. I took out my phone and opened my messages. Hannah's last text was still there. You deserve someone who chooses you. I typed. I finally chose myself. The reply came 5 seconds later. Good. Now the real healing begins. I didn't expect to find her there. The morning after I served Mia the official divorce papers, I walked out onto the front porch like I had so many times before, shirt wrinkled, coffee half poured, mind still tangled in the night's thoughts. And there she was, Hannah, sitting on my porch swing, a steaming cup of coffee in each hand. She wore a soft burgundy sweater, jeans with the knees worn thin, and her hair down in that slightly wind-blown way that made her look both alive and untouched by the world. She smiled as if this wasn't strange at all. Hope I'm not intruding, she said. I blinked. You? How did you know where I lived? You gave me the address that night, she said. Hospital intake. I'm a nurse. We see everything. I chuckled, rubbing the back of my neck. right? Of course. She held out one of the cups. Black, no sugar, too hot. You strike me as someone who prefers it punishing. I took it, our fingers brushing. The heat traveled up my wrist before the coffee even touched my lips. She scooted slightly to the side, patting the empty space beside her. I sat unsure what to say. The porch creaked beneath us. For a while, neither of us spoke. We sipped, listened to the wind. Then she said it, softly, like she'd been waiting until the right moment. That night you crashed, you were driving away from pain, not toward anything. I stared into my cup. I know, I said. I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to go home. There it was. The truest sentence I'd spoken in a long time. I hadn't even told myself that before now. Hannah nodded. There's a difference, isn't there? Between dying and disappearing. I looked over at her. You speak like someone who's been there. She met my gaze. I have. Something passed between us. Not pity, not confession, just recognition. We sat in it for a moment. The shared truth that pain doesn't need to be identical to be understood. I filed the papers, I said finally. It's done. Well started. I know. You know? I guessed, she said. There's a lightness in your eyes today. I don't feel light. You feel honest. That word again. Honest. With Mia, everything had become performance. The calm voice. The agreeable smile. The restrained emotion. But with Hannah, I didn't need to be careful. I've been afraid to admit how bad it got, I said, staring out at the street. How much I shrank to make her happy. She didn't say anything. I turned toward her. I used to think being good was enough. Providing. Staying. Showing up. I thought that was love. But love without intimacy is just survival. Still, she was quiet. Then she said something I wasn't prepared for. I want to be clear with you, Liam. Okay. I'm not here to rescue you. I blinked. I didn't ask you to. I know, she interrupted gently. But you're a man standing on the edge of something, and I want you to step forward because you choose to, not because you need a place to fall. I nodded slowly. I'm not a rebound, she said. You're not. I'm not a distraction. You couldn't be. She turned slightly to face me fully. I can help you build something new, but I won't be the escape hatch from the old. Her words landed like stone and silk at the same time. Firm, but soft. I'm not looking to hide anymore, I said. Her eyes searched mine for a long moment. Good. Then she leaned forward. Not fast. Not impulsive. Just certain. Her lips met mine like a question finally answered. No fire. No rush. Just warmth. Presence. Realness. A kiss not born from lust, but from permission. She pulled back first. It was only a few seconds, but it felt like the start of something. She smiled faintly. That's what it feels like when someone chooses you. I laughed quietly. Feels dangerous. No, she said. Feels earned. We sat like that for a while, shoulders barely touching, 2 cups of cooling coffee in our hands. No demands. No drama. Just 2 people who'd survived different storms, finding each other in the stillness that followed. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for the space I took up. It took months, not days. Lawyers. Papers. Signatures that felt like small funerals. Packing boxes. Dividing furniture that felt strangely symbolic. Chairs, lamps, plates. Things with no real emotional weight, except when you realize they represent a whole life built together. Mia didn't cry. Not once. She seemed relieved, even, as if the paperwork made her freedom official. The house sold quickly. She kept her ring. I didn't ask for it back. We spoke through attorneys more than we spoke to each other. When we did talk, it was polite. Polite in that way people are when they're no longer connected but still share history. She thanked me once. For not fighting harder, she said. I nodded. There was nothing left to fight for. When we signed the final document, she paused. Looked at me with something complicated in her expression. Regret? Maybe. Or nostalgia. Or just the realization that endings are real, even when you want them. I hope you find what you were missing, she said. I didn't tell her I'd found something else entirely. A week later, the house was empty. Echoing. Quiet. I handed the keys to the realtor and walked away. I didn't look back. Healing is never cinematic. It didn't happen in one big moment. It was small things. Waking up without fear. Taking a deep breath in an empty kitchen. Realizing loneliness wasn't the same as loss. Hannah never rushed me. Never asked for more than I could give. Some nights we had dinner. Sometimes just coffee. Sometimes we didn't speak at all. Just sat together, legs touching, music low, the kind of silence that felt safe. One afternoon she said, "You're different now." "How?" "You look like someone who stopped apologizing for existing." I laughed, surprised at how true it felt. Then, on a bright Saturday with nothing urgent in the world, she asked, "Want to take a drive?" I did. We didn't pick a destination. The car rolled out of town, past the familiar streets, past the memories, into open space. Windows down, sun warm on our arms. Hannah's hair tangled in the wind. She rested her feet on the dash, humming some half-remembered song. We talked about nothing important. Favorite movies. Childhood scars. The worst meal we ever had. At one point, I reached for her hand. She let me take it. No hesitation. No guilt. Just her palm against mine, fingers entwined. We drove for a long time like that. Stretches of silence that weren't heavy, just full. The landscape changed slowly, from neighborhoods to fields to rolling hills. No rain. No panic. Eventually she spoke. "That night you crashed," she said. "I still on the road ahead. You were trying to escape pain, not heading anywhere." "Yeah. But now." I glanced at her. "Now I'm going somewhere." She smiled. The wind caught it, made it brighter. "I wasn't healing you," she said. "You needed someone to shine a light so you could see the way out. That's all." "I needed more than that." She shook her head gently. "No. You just needed someone who didn't leave when things got dark." I squeezed her hand. We passed a sign for a scenic overlook. I pulled in. The car idled while the world rolled out beneath us. Green hills, open sky, sunlight on everything. We sat there, the engine ticking as it cooled. I turned to her. "You stayed," I said quietly. She didn't look at me, just leaned her head back against the seat. "So did you," she replied. "You stayed alive. You stayed honest. You chose yourself, finally. That's harder than choosing me." For a long moment, there was nothing but breeze and heartbeat. Then I reached across the console, cupped her cheek, and kissed her. Slow, careful, earned. This time, it wasn't a question. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "No more crashes," she whispered. "No," I said. "Just roads." We sat there until the sun dipped lower, until shadows stretched long, until the world felt wide again. On the drive back, her hand found mine again. No rush, no destination, just motion. The road curved ahead, golden in the last light of day. I looked at her profile, eyes forward, hair glowing at the edges, lips soft, steady. And I thought, I'm not drowning anymore, not running from pain, not running toward her, just moving forward. The choice was mine now. And in that warm, open space of evening, with the hum of tires beneath us and her fingers woven through mine, I realized something simple and profound. I had crashed no more.